I've been to China a few times before, and the last time I went to China, I did a residency at Red Gate Gallery in Beijing, and some of the work is from that residency. I made the work all here, but I did a lot of research about my heritage and a lot of this work is all about my ancestors. So that's my grandmother, that's my great grandmother, that's my grandfather from China, and it was all just investigating really about being half Chinese and half Australian, and being born and bred and living in Australia, but also wanting to find out about my Chinese side. So when I went to China, I had an illusion that I would somehow be recognised as being half Chinese, but that was a total fallacy. So that was really interesting actually too. So it was like not really finding a connection there. I met my family and everything, but and then also kind of feeling like that too in Australia, growing up in a pretty white, racist Northern Beaches suburb in Sydney. So a lot of my work also references that as well, being at that time being half Chinese, and kind of the backlash of white Australian policy always seems to be pretty it always seems to be an undercurrent thing in Australian politics, and for generations to come. And I guess my work talks about that as well, and I guess a sense of a loss of a cultural thing. Even though my father's Chinese, and he came here when he was 19, and so he's been here for a long time now. Married a white woman, and at that time it was interracial marriages were seen as a no-no. So that is also in my work as well. My father's having to assimilate into Australian culture, and also what I guess he had to give away to, in a sense, to assimilate, and therefore assimilate his family. So my father never taught us Cantonese, unfortunately. So that's another. I feel like if I could speak the language, then when I go to China or where I've previously been, then it's a little bit easier, I guess. Or yeah. So I started looking at my ancestors and my family, and then I started looking at ancestral worship. And one of my father's, besides eating Chinese food and things like that and celebrating Chinese New Year, we would also every year go to our ancestors' graves and do the ritual of burning the incense and all the paper objects, and laying down food, and then having a big feast. So that ritual was a big part of my childhood, and I guess that's what this work is about as well, is just maintaining that thing about still having rituals in life, and acknowledging your ancestors and making it kind of purposeful, and to impart onto my immediate family as well. So when I was in China, the first time we went with my family in Guangzhou, and we went down and we saw our ancestors' graves, and we did that whole thing. And we also went to this it was like a temple, but it was like a place where all the archives of all my family from 1,000 years ago. So that was all really interesting for me, and I guess doing this stuff, I'm trying to break down those cultural different identities within myself, and in the greater, and in Australia as a whole, because we're such a multicultural country, and also even living in Northern Territory, Chinese people have been here for a really long time. So that's interesting. That's also a bit to do with it as well. So yeah, and
what were the burial ancestral graves, or what were they that you went and visited?
Yeah, that one is huge. So it was on a hill, and they'd been moved actually to a new site. But yeah, there were a whole tombstones upon tombstones usually with the picture of the father of the ancestor, and then and my father has always had his mother and father placed in a certain part of his house, and it's actually downstairs where the laundry is, which I always found strange, but he was like, that's where they've got to be. So I knew my grandfather because he came over. I went to China when my grandmother died in China, but I never met her. But it's a very strong presence, and also only while I was in China recently, my grandfather on my mother's side passed away. So there was all this stuff about, so that was his wife, so that kind of came out of that kind of immediate response that he would go back to her, because that's what he always said. So that she's like, the light and stuff in that work is about her spirit, and I guess like him going back to her, and so all these things kind of coincidentally happened, but it was already in my work. But it was interesting how you ritually bury someone, and how we do it in white culture and in all different cultures are similar, but I feel like it's important to remember those things and actually acknowledge them, and that's about it really.
Can I ask, how do you create images? Are you using programs like Photoshop?
Yeah.
And then why are you choosing to print onto those materials?
Because the mirrors are like reflective, so it's a reflection of myself, and it's also kind of ethereal as well, because you're talking about my ancestors, so it's like that etheric. And like that one there, my grandmother, that I found that mirror in China when I was there last, and seeing knows what it says. It says see, can you translate that again? It's like every Mao.
Every word from now is truth.
Yeah, and I thought that was an interesting kind of play on China, and also my great grandmother, she was a showgirl, and that's a picture of her, and she actually left my grandmother to become this like showgirl, so she's like the family myth of, so that's how it's just this interesting, so I spent a lot of time talking to my family about these things, and before my grandfather passed away, I did lots of recording and he spoke about his life, and so that's all will eventually come out in my work slowly. That's it.
Well, you're lucky that you did that, because so many families, including mine, we never got around to doing it before they passed away, and then it's all gone.
That's right, and I didn't want to lose that, and I also want to tell, their stories are passed on to my children as well, and it's important because you feel a connection, I guess. Where in China, their family is so important; it's number one priority over everything. It's not necessarily like that in white culture, I don't think. I mean, Indigenous culture, you really see that, which I like that in the Northern Territory.
I think it is becoming stronger though in white culture, with more and more people researching their ancestry and.
No, there's all that ancestry.com that's come up, like this weird, like.
Be the detective.
Yeah, and those TV shows. So it's interesting.
Great.
Thanks, Vin. Thank you.